the NFL season. I feel like we haven't talked to Lloyd. I mean, the last time we spoke to Lloyd was probably during the football season, but now we get him back. I would say this is probably the 12th, maybe the 13th year that Lloyd has been joining me on the air. We're happy to have him back. And, of course, NFL senior writer, researcher, historian, PFWA, award winner, NFL Network, ESPN contributor, and, of course, BCF HOF Selection Committee third and a mile. Our good friend, Lloyd Vance. How has your off-season been?
I'm doing great, Q, and doing a lot of research. Just getting ready for the season. It's just exciting. Football's back. I'm even watching every preseason game.
See? That's what we want to hear. That's what we enjoy. All right, so let's start right there with the preseason before we start to go around the league. And like I said, Lloyd will join us as he typically does throughout the NFL season with Vance's view, his game balls as well. So we had some young quarterbacks in action. We had Hurts, we had Wilson, we had Trevor Lawrence, we had Fields. Let's start with Trevor Lawrence and Fields. I mean, I watched both games. I went back and I watched them. I was actually impressed with the touch by Lawrence, his toughness right off the bat. I'm a little shaky with that offensive line, but man, Fields really kind of blew me away. What were your thoughts on those two quarterbacks respectively?
Yeah, and you and I are thinking the same way. I had right at the top of my notes all the young quarterbacks really stepping forward, and we know the way college football is today. They're preparing these young guys to come right in right away and take the reins, and particularly in Jacksonville, you were talking about. Gardner Minshew is there, but we know he's not going to be the starter. And Trevor Lawrence, 6 of 9, 71 yards. He did have a fumble that he did recover himself, but he did look poised in the pocket, and they finally have a star that they can build around. It's just been so long since Mark Brunell was the quarterback there that led that team. So great opportunity for him, but he is going to take his lumps behind that line, and they are retooling as a team. In terms of Justin Fields, I just thought he was tremendous. Just a playmaker all over the field, and it's going to be tough for Andy Dalton to keep that job. You talk about the 33 yards rushing and the 8-yard touchdown rushing, and then the long throws that he was making. So he just looks very exciting as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to start to go into this. You know, this could be the greatest draft class of all time. I mean, to me, that distinction still is the 83 class. But you got some young gunslingers, and you mentioned the Bears and Fields. And I when I did my NFC North preview, I mean, I think the Bears are going to be a horrible team. I mean, they've got the Rams, Cincy, the Browns, and the Lions to open up the season. If they don't get a win there, who's to say this kid's not starting by, say, week 3 or 4? I highly doubt they start him on the road against the Raiders, but then you turn around and you're at home against the Packers. I don't know. I guess my point is these players, right, you start them sooner rather than later, but it's a different story in Jacksonville. It's a different story in New York with the Jets and Wilson. Let me get your thoughts on Wilson there, because I watched this game, and just offensively, the Giants and the Jets were basically just putrid. I mean, look, Wilson comes off not a bad debut. I'm sure he'll play at least 2 or 3 series against the Packers. He's got a strong arm. He's got a little moxie, too, and I think you kind of like that. And I also believe that the Jets, you know, you've got some playmakers with this New York team right now. I mean, I don't see them being a 2-14 team this year, especially under this head coach Saleh. So what were your thoughts on Wilson?
Yeah, so, and they're another team that's trying to build something there, and they're bringing a new coach in. You're talking about Saleh, and the GM has done a great job, Joe Douglas, building that squad. And Zach Wilson's going to come in there, the unquestioned leader. He's going to have the opportunity to start right away. Hopefully to get Elijah Moore coming back from the quad injury. But you're right, strong arm, a guy that really believes in himself. You know, it's not going to be so easy coming over from BYU into the New York area, but I think as a young guy, it's going to be exciting. Very tough division there, obviously, with the Patriots and Miami there. So it's going to be an opportunity for them to win some games, and he's going to get his chances.
Yeah, no, I think their defense is going to be able to make some plays and carry them. And, you know, again, you look at their schedule, 2 of the first 4 on the road at Carolina, home to New England, at Denver, Tennessee, Atlanta. Then they get their bye week in mid-October. All right, let's bring it back to the NFC East for a couple moments. I mentioned that Jets and the Giants, and I watched the Giants. Look, we always make fun of the backup quarterback, but let's be honest here, right? I mean, you almost think now, you see what Flacco did in Philadelphia in a preseason debut with the Eagles. It's always good to have a viable option at the backup quarterback position. And the reason I bring it up is because Daniel Jones is prone to missing a couple games here and there. Forget about some of these turnovers. And I think going into the season, even with the healthy Saquon Barkley, it's right there for Daniel Jones. You've got the weapons. You've got Galladay. You've got Barkley. You've got Shepard. You've got Ingram. They quote-unquote retooled the offensive line. And this is just my opinion now. This is it for Daniel Jones. It's on Daniel Jones, Gettleman. They're joined at the hip. They're all on the hot seat. What are your realistic expectations for Daniel Jones this year with the Giants?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more in terms of this is a franchise that everybody's going to have their eyes on in terms of are they going to take that next step, or are they going to kind of rebuild this whole thing all over again? And you're right, Daniel Jones coming into his third season, that's where you really want to see him make that maturity jump and kind of utilize all those weapons that you just named. And let's not mince words here. This division is up for grabs. Washington won it last year at 7-9, so everybody's talking about Dallas, but I still want to see the Cowboys live up to the big headlines. And the Giants do have some people that are coming along. I know Jim Judge has run a very tough training camp, and these guys should be ready to play.
Yeah, I'm still concerned, though, with the fact that I don't need my quarterback forcing the issue. I don't need my quarterback forcing the ball in the tight windows and double coverage. Look, they open at home against Denver, on the road against Washington at defense, a winnable game against Atlanta, a winnable game against the Saints. There's no reason to think this. If the Giants beat Denver, they can certainly go 2-2, 3-1. That's your best case scenario. I'll tell you right now, though, if Daniel Jones is 13 of 26 for $165 and a fumble and an interception, they lose to Denver to open up the season at 425 on September 12th. You're going to see right there after one game, he's not the guy. That's the type of pressure that he's on.
Yeah, and I know all my Jersey guys that are big Giants fans are going to be emailing me and texting me. And, there's a lot. There's a lot he's going to need to step up and do. He needs to be an unquestioned leader. They drafted him to be the guy, and you're right. Gettleman is on a hot seat there. He's brought in some nice pieces here and there, but they have to put it together and kind of win some football games. So it's going to be a huge spotlight on this team, and can they compete with Dallas and Philadelphia, because that's their main rivals.
You like Washington's defense this year? You don't think Fitzpatrick has to go out there and sling it around? I mean, I think with that defense, he probably doesn't have to throw for 4,000, even though it seems like everyone's throwing for 4,000 yards. He's going to have a couple plays here and there where he'll make mistakes, but how do you handicap the Washington football team?
Well, the Washington football team, you're right, built around that defense, come off 7-9 season. Jack Del Rio has done a great job with that defense. Particularly Chase Young is just a guy that's come along, defensive player of the year prospect. It's all right. They have a pretty tough schedule, Start with the Dodgers, then they have the Giants, and then they have at Buffalo, which could be a tough game, at Atlanta. New Orleans, I'm not too sure about. I think they should be able to handle them, but we have to look at that Chiefs game on Week 6. That's going to be a huge game for Washington. But you're right. The turnovers are going to be the story in terms of Washington. Can they avoid the turnovers? Because we know Fitzmagic. He'll give you 5 touchdowns and he'll give you 5 interceptions.
If you are a Dallas Cowboy fan, and I know McCarthy's come out, I know the Cowboys brass, Jerry Jones, everyone's come out and said there's no urgency to play Dak in the preseason. It's okay, just relax. A couple MRIs here and there. I mean, is there cause for concern? I know the second MRI showed that the shoulder is healing well, but man, I'll tell you, you take a couple hits here and there, man. And they're already dealing with some injuries, right? They just lost a defensive tackle, Gallimore, for about 8 weeks, so they're feeling it already. But what about the, I guess you can say, on a scale 1 to 10, where would be your level of concern with Dak Prescott?
Yeah, Q, I definitely have to put it, 5 or 6, because, you look at him just handing the ball off, and I know they're darlings of Hard Knocks, and everyone loves this soap opera around the team, but there's a lot of expectations there, Dallas, with the roster they put together offensively. Now, defensively, they have a lot of work to do. And in the draft, they tried to shore up that back secondary and to bring in Micah Parsons, who's going to be a playmaker in terms of linebacker position. But, you open the opening night at Tampa Bay, then you're at the Chargers, big game with the Eagles, Carolina, and then the Giants, and then at New England. So, there's some winnable games there, but they got to put all those offensive weapons to use. And let's not forget about that ankle injury. Everybody's kind of saying, Dak's fully healed, but you have to see it on the field.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I don't really believe that. I don't believe that the Eagles are a 6-7 win team. I think they might win 4 or 5 games. I think they'll be competitive. It's not going to shock me though if Jalen Hurts struggles and they're 1-4, 1-5 out of the gate. Rookie head coaches don't want to lose games. I mean, I'm going to get killed for saying this, but I can see Joe Flacco starting a game or two here this year with Philly.
Oh, man. And I was in attendance at that game, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And you're right, they did some nice things, but, the people have to kind of temper their enthusiasm around this team. As you're talking about Nick Solari, we're not sure what he's going to do as a first-year head coach. And then Hurts, this is his opportunity to really be the man. He made some nice plays, going 3 for 7 in there. That's the one with the potential throw. And the one play that the Eagles offense did on Tez Watkins was kind of a blown coverage screen that went to the house. So, they have some playmakers, but Devontae Smith is going to need him to be more healthy. And overall, this unit, they're missing some talent in terms of offensively. And then I'm still always worried about that secondary. They allowed way too many passing yards last year.
Let's go around the league. 49ers are waving Josh Rosen. I mean, look, you and I have spoken for a long time. I said this when he came out. I thought this kid was going to be a complete bust. Now, under the circumstances, when you think about it, bad spot. I mean, think about it, right? He's played for 4 teams since Arizona drafted him in the first round in 2018. And then everywhere he's kind of gone, a team has basically drafted a quarterback in the top 5. It's happened to him several times wherever he lands. So, I mean, it's kind of hard luck. But, look, can you see him latching on to a team that just needs a backup? I mean, apparently he wasn't getting enough reps in practice, and the 49ers decided to go in a different direction.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough situation for Josh Rosen. Obviously, a lot of maturity issues coming out of UCLA. Everybody talks about, did he really love football or just kind of play it? And he had the opportunities. I know last year he had some humble pie, and he was on a practice squad of Tampa Bay trying to learn from Tom Brady. Maybe he gets one more shot because there's always that first-round potential. We always see that with these first-round guys getting opportunity after opportunity. And we're just going to have to see how it turns out for him. But right now, it may be the end of the road.
Let's go to the AFC for a couple moments. Lloyd Vance joining us. Vance's View. You'll hear him every 5:15-ish every Tuesday on Back Your Play right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. Steelers, a little bit of a scare today with one of their very good-looking wide receivers, Claypool. And the Steelers, to me, are I think a very interesting team because Big Ben's come back in the camp, in shape. They got that offense. As I mentioned, Claypool just suffered a minor ankle sprain, according to multiple reports, should be fine. I think there's a lot of pressure on Pittsburgh this year because for a fact that's one of the best divisions in all of sport and certainly all of football. When you really break down that division, right, you've got a Cleveland team on the rise with Baker, you got a Cincinnati team with a young gunslinger, and then you still have the Baltimore Ravens, so let's not forget about him. What's your expectations on the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2021?
Yes, and they've never had a losing season under Mike Tomlin, but we knew last year they were kind of in danger. And the key thing, Q, is going to be that offensive line. They got Kendrick Green coming in, Marquise Pouncey at the center position, and they got a couple other new guys on that offensive line. So they're going to have to do their job and open holes for Najee Harris, who's that exciting young running back that they drafted out of Alabama. I expect them to run him early and often on the line. And let's face it, Big Ben at 39, he's got to prove that he can still get the ball downfield, and they have a myriad of weapons. So you talk about Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster. So they look pretty good in terms of their offense. But all three teams in that division made the playoffs last year. I'm talking about the Ravens. And let's not forget the Browns beat them pretty bad in the playoffs. So it should be a fun division to watch. But I expect the Steelers to be back in the mix again.
Jacksonville obviously going with the young quarterback, the young gunslinger Lawrence. We don't know about the health of Carson Wentz. There's a disaster in Houston. I mean, the Tennessee Titans, to me, this is their division to lose the AFC South.
Yeah, Tennessee definitely with Tannehill had to bounce back. And let's not forget Derrick Henry, who's always ready to run the football, and that defense is underrated under Mike Vrabel. So they should totally control that. And you talk about the Colts situation, and Jacob Eason, I expect to play at least 2 to 3 games to start the season. I know everybody's saying that foot injury is going to be fine for Carson Wentz, but you always have to wonder about a foot, and he's able to move back there and everything. So, you know, the Colts have a lot of talent, but if they don't have that quarterback, they're going to be in trouble.
You still, you know, we mentioned some quarterback changes here. I don't know what the hell is going to go on in New Orleans. You know, I'm not sold on Darnold in Carolina. I think a change of scenery is good for him. You know, Tampa Bay's got Brady. Atlanta's got Matt Ryan, 2 veteran gunslingers. Tampa Bay, the defending Super Bowl champs. You know, this is a 17-game season here. Can you see Tampa Bay winning 12, 13 games? Or do you believe maybe they take a step back a little bit? Atlanta's not as bad as people think. Maybe New Orleans surprises some people. I can't figure out the NFC South. I mean, I know Tampa is the best team, but after that, it's almost like throw a dart.
Right, and let's not forget that division. They had a repeat winner, 6 out of the last 7 seasons. So, you know, Tampa Bay coming back with 21 or 22 starters from last year. They reloaded, and they did a good job in the draft. So the key, of course, is going to be 44-year-old quarterback Tom Brady. Is he going to be healthy? Question marks all over the place for the Saints. I'm just not sure about the quarterback position there. Who's going to win it, Jameis or Hill? And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But right now, I think that offense is going to be hampered because of what's going on with Michael Thomas. Carolina is a team I think you need to watch in that division. I think they're making a move, and then David Arnold finally get it together. Matt Rule's trying to build some things in there, and he's got some playmakers coming in, some good young guys on defense as well. So Carolina should be fun, and it should be competitive, but I do expect Tampa Bay to win that division.
Could be Garoppolo's last stand in San Francisco. We saw Adams sign that contract extension with Seattle. The Rams get a new quarterback in Stafford, who odds, you know, a lot of people are picking him to be MVP, and then Atlanta's got the young playmaker in Murray, and they still have some offensive weapons. The NFC West, I think, is going to be much more competitive this year, and I don't know if I see a team winning more than 10 games in this division.
Wow. And this is very competitive, Q, and as you alluded to, there's just so many exciting teams out there, and they are going to beat each other up. It's not going to be that they're not good, but all these teams can all compete against anybody, and the Rams, everybody's really jumping on that bandwagon. I want to see if Stafford finally, you know, no more excuses. He has all the weapons, and McVay really believes in him. So they should make some noise, the Rams. But you can't count out San Francisco, and I expect Trey Lance to kind of play eventually for them. But that defense with Bosa and the rest of those guys is just intimidating. And the Cardinals were my pick last year, as you know, for that breakout team. Yep. And they jumped out the box and really had some nice wins, got the Hail Murray and all that stuff, but then they left home. So the Cardinals are really trying to get some pieces around Kyler, and that's going to be fun to watch, too.
Oh, no, listen, you and I both. I mean, I took a flyer on Murray as MVP. I mean, this was a team that was 5-2, and then they promptly lost 4 out of 5. They had that stretch where they lost to Seattle, New England, and the Rams. So, yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. And then back to the AFC East. We talked a little bit about the Jets. We know Miami still got some young players. This is the year, though. We know Josh Allen is a stud, right? We know he's a top 3, 4, 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's an MVP caliber, MVP level signal thrower. But I always look at, after you had that monster year and you make that run, you know, almost like the Browns and Baker Mayfield, can you do it the next season? because now all of a sudden the money's there, the money walks, the money talks, the BS walks. Are the Buffalo Bills, in your estimation, are they the biggest threat to knock off Kansas City in the AFC?
Yeah, Q, expectations are there now. And Josh Allen hit that 6-year, $258 million contract. And everybody's got them as the bullseye in that division now. And you talk about them competing with the Chiefs. We saw in last year's AFC Championship game that, yes, they were there. And, they still have some holes, though, in terms of, in my opinion, with Buffalo. They cannot run the ball with effectiveness. And that defense gets some timely turnovers, but they definitely have to be more attacking. So they're going to be fun to watch. And I wouldn't count out the New England Patriots in that division. Belichick is not happy not making the playoffs last year, and he wants to prove that he can win without Tom Brady.
All right, so next week we'll start to look ahead a little more. We'll start to get into some of those game balls. We'll go around the league a lot more heavy. I want to start to really focus on some of these divisions. We'll kind of pinpoint, we'll highlight some of these teams. We'll look at the win total, and then, we're going to turn around, we're going to blink, and then you and I will get into our regular season predictions, which, by the way, we always tell people, right? These are, the caveat is if you want to bet on our predictions, then go, so be it. But you cannot, under any circumstances, hold us accountable for losing money. We can get credit when you win, but not when you lose, right?
Yeah, and I always get folks, they always pull out my early season predictions, and they say, you were wrong. They just love pointing the finger. But when I'm right, they never say that, But September 9th will be here before we know it. Tampa Bay going to kick it off.
All right. I greatly look forward to another year doing this with you, pal. Great stuff as always. We'll talk next Tuesday.
All right, Q. Thanks for having me on.
All right. You got it. Our guy, Lloyd Vance, quick timeout.